Welcome to the channel where you will find love, laughs, and DIYs. My name is Crafty Kathy, and I'm so thankful that you came to spend your time with me today. If you're looking for some spooky Halloween DIYs that you can impress your family and friends with, I think I got you covered on this one, my friend, and you are in the right place. I created some amazing DIY decor all on a very tight budget, and it is amazing. I can't wait till you see it. Let's jump on in. On the first one, I got this cheesecloth off of Amazon, but you can get this at Walmart or anywhere. Now, cheesecloth is almost like gauze. It is a very thin woven cotton, and you can kind of see through it. Now, we need about 6 pieces. I only had about 4 pieces, but mine was a little bit thicker than the norm, so I thought, okay, I'm going to make it work and just use what I have. And I took an old baby doll. This thing came out of an old abandoned house, and it was full of cat hair. Look at its head, y'all. It was so sad. But anyways, we got to take her head off, so I just used an old pair of scissors and off with her head. This is the massacre that was left behind after I cut her little head off. And I'm not really sure what happened to her hair, but here's the rest of her. And I'm going to keep that because who knows, I may need it. The chickens liked it and thought it was really cute. The next step is to pick out the frame that you're going to need. I chose an 8x10, and I actually used this one that has that scrolly outside because it kind of had that old vintagey looking vibe that I like. I felt that this one was just too plain and the round one was just too big. Now, the best place to get these types of frames, of course, is going to be at a thrift store. I took the cardboard that was in the back and I painted it white because we need it white. And then you lay down a piece of wax paper and tape that wax paper down to the backing. You do this because you don't want your head sticking to that cardboard when you're finished. Now on the next step, I actually kind of taped my head down to that wax paper, and I used a screw underneath it so that it would stay upright. And then you just take Vaseline and you slap it all over, and you put a lot. You put it in the eye sockets, the nose, the mouth, and all over the top of that head because you do not want that cheesecloth to stick to it once it dries. Then you start with the cheesecloth. All you do is lay it over. Make sure you have room on the sides once you pull it down. And you are going to spray it with this heavy starch. Now, the starch is going to make it kind of freeze and harden in that position that you've got it in. So you start off around the nose, and my husband came up with the idea of just using a paintbrush to kind of push down into the nose sockets, because every time you would push the eyes, it would pop up off the nose, or when you would push the nose, it would pop up off the mouth. So you want it to stick on there so you can get that perfect face, you know. And so I used a brush and kind of brushed, if you will, down into all those crevices, and then you spray a lot, and I mean a lot, of that heavy starch. And just when you think you have enough starch, spray some more because it's not going to hurt a thing. I think the more you got, probably the better off you are. That starch created a wetness that made it easier to get down into all those sockets. And then you just lay another piece of cheesecloth and repeat the exact same thing. You start at the nose, make sure that you use plenty of starch and get down in all those sockets. You pretty much keep doing this until your cheesecloth is gone. You just keep repeating that pattern. You lay that cheesecloth over it. Don't worry too much about any more of the details besides the fact that you want that face to be perfect. So use a lot of starch, like I said, and make sure you get down inside all those little crevices and spray all around that cheesecloth, not just on the face, but all the way around it. When you are finished with all your cheesecloth, you want your baby doll to kind of look like this. Or you can use a foam head. It doesn't have to be a baby. It can be like one of those foam heads or something. And you see how much I used. And then you take the bottom parts and you just kind of scrunch it, if you will. But be careful, because if you are not careful, you will pull that cheesecloth right back off her face and you won't see the pattern. So what I did was kind of held the area around her eyes when I scrunched all around that cheesecloth. This is a little bit a better picture, I think, of how I did. You want it to look scrunched, like she's coming out of that picture or trying to come out of that picture. You want it to look scrunched. You use a lot of the spray, and then you're going to leave it alone and let it dry, at least overnight. I let this one dry overnight, and it still wasn't absolutely dry the next day. It said you can leave it up to 36 hours if you want. I set mine in the garage overnight because there's no humidity, there's no cool air from the night, and the chickens thought that it was a great idea. I just totally left her alone, and like I said, she was about 90% of the way dry the next day, but it would have been best if I had more time to let her sit and stew in her starch. I thought this old frame was perfect the way it was, but I did want to darken it up, so I used my DIY black wax, and I just kind of used my little wax brush, and I brushed it all around this whole frame and very, very lightly wiped off the excess because I wanted it to look old and dark and creepy. I really paid close attention to the corners because that's the area where a picture frame's usually the darkest, and so I really revved up the black wax in all of the corners. Now it's time to take the head off, and all we're going to have is just the shadow of the little face. So I had to very carefully undo the tape because remember I taped mine down, and I very, very carefully pulled her out. Now, the cloth did move a little bit, but it wasn't enough to really make that much of a difference. Then you lay your frame down to see where you need to cut, because you're still going to have to cut it so that you can close your picture frame in the back. So I just flipped mine over and I cut off a lot of this cheesecloth. But you just use that back piece of cardboard as your guide to know exactly how much you want to cut. You just want to be able to close it up real good. Once I finally got it cut to the size that I needed, I put it back into my frame, and then my frame had this gorgeous velvet backing on it. I love picture frames that have the velvet on them, and it had small little nails that attached it. I'm sorry my head is a little bit in the way. You know my head had to make its appearance. So yeah, I just stuck everything back in there and then just closed it back up real good. I wanted to shade in that cheesecloth a bit, just to make it look a little bit more old and worn. So I used my Distress Oxide, and this color is called Weathered Twigs. And I love to use these little makeup brushes. Now you can get these at Dollar Tree. I think I got these off of Amazon, and I have all different sizes, and they're great for shading and distressing. And I just kind of went around the whole picture. I paid special attention to all of the edges, of course, and then where her mouth and stuff was. And then I took one of these spiders that I got from Walmart. I painted it black, and I just glued it right down on the side, and she is complete. I'm not really one for spooky Halloween decor, and I usually don't even celebrate Halloween, but I know that a lot of my subscribers do, and I wanted to give you guys some awesome ideas that were different than ones that you've seen before. I think that this one is amazing, and I'm really impressed with how it turned out and really how easy it was. I only have about $5 or $6 in this DIY. Let me know what you think. Now this next one can be all Dollar Tree. So I got 2 of these little hangers that you hang your plants on. And then I have 2 of these lanterns that are out at the Dollar Tree right now. They didn't have black, so I got orange. And I just used an old scrap piece of wood. But if you want to go all Dollar Tree, use one of their pieces of wood that's something like this. So I took my wood and just cleaned it up a little bit. I always wipe it down with a baby wipe because it helps it to receive the paint a little easier, I think. And I just used this black colored chalk paint and I gave it 2 all over coats. I even add a little squirt of water before I start painting because this paint is so thick. It's like in globs. And it just helps it to thin it down a little bit and coat the wood a little bit easier. The next thing I did was measured my wood so that I could put my lanterns and my little plant hanger right in the center. Now I mostly used a drill to just drill my little screws in, but in one part I actually did use my little screwdriver from the Dollar Tree, so you don't have to have a drill to make this DIY at all. It was very easy to get the screws right through the wood with that little screwdriver. But I used my drill mostly just because I had it there. Since my lanterns were orange, I took them outside and spray painted them black. I made sure that my lantern was going to slide on there very easy. And these take 2 AA batteries and they're really pretty when you light them up. And I use a Sharpie to color in any spots where the black paint comes off of there. That's a little trick. I got this vinyl. Look at this side. I love that it's got a side that makes it easy to peel off. It's from HTV Ront. They sent this to me a couple of weeks ago, and I love this orange color. And I just found this off of the Cricut Design Space. It says, park your broom and stay a while. Now we're going to put this on the very top of our little lantern post. I really like the orange color of this vinyl with that black background. I think it's very striking and it will definitely catch your eyes. And then I just turn my little lanterns on and this DIY is so super easy and it's done. Since my scrap wood was free, I have $2.50 in each lantern. But even if you had to use the Dollar Tree wood, that's only $3.75 a piece. Now that's a deal. If you're liking my content so far and you're getting some value from it, would you please do me a huge favor? Would you hit that like button because it really helps me out here on YouTube? And hey, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I would love for you to be one of my crafting buddies and for you to be a part of my DIY family here on YouTube. Now let's get back into the video. The next one, I just started off with one of these pumpkins that I got from Walmart. They were either $5.44 or maybe they were $6.44. I'm not 100% sure. But I used one that was a little more rounded. You can even use those small ones from the Dollar Tree. I plan to try it on those too. Now, I used just a regular X-Acto knife at first because I forgot that I had a hot knife, which is the same thing as an X-Acto knife, except for it gets hot and it cuts through this foam very easy. I just cut the very front part of my pumpkin off. And guess what? It's not hollow. I was broken inside. I thought in my mind that this was going to be a hollow pumpkin, but no problem. I just scooped all that old messy foam out. It took about 10 minutes. I just took some of that black chalk paint that I use. It's so thick, y'all, so I added some water to it, and I basically just kind of painted all over the inside, and I almost did like a dabbing motion just to get it all over the walls of this pumpkin. Next, I went in with my DIY paint in the color Summer Crush. This is the perfect pumpkin color, and I gave it 2 all over coats. And when it was about halfway dry, I took my Dixie Belle Voodoo Gel Stain. It's pretty much the same thing as that antique wax. I mean, honestly, it is. And I just kind of ran it down into the grooves, and I used my paintbrush to run it down in there. This is just to give it a good dark shading effect, and I went all around like the stem of the pumpkin too, and then I went back over it with the orange color to blend it in. Then I used a color called Java, which is a dark brown, and I just dabbed that all over the stem just to darken it up and make it look more like a stem. Then I took some spray adhesive and some big, thick, chunky glitter that I got from Walmart, and I've carefully sprayed that spray adhesive because I didn't want to go too fast and let it eat that foam up, and then I just dumped the glitter in there, and it's perfect. And look at the result. It's so beautiful, y'all. And I don't even like glitter. It's so pretty. So now we're going to work with these little skeletons. I got these at Dollar General, 3 for $1. Now you can easily maneuver their arms, bend them, and basically break them to do whatever you want to do with them. So I was just kind of warming him up because we're going to kind of bend his leg where he looks like he's just chilling and having a good old time. Here's where I finally remembered that I had the hot knife, and this is all it is. It's literally a hot X-Acto knife. And these little guys had hangers on the top of their head, and it just takes them right off. I absolutely love this tool. It makes things so much easier. Anytime you need to get plastic off or whatever. And I wish that I would have used this hot knife whenever I first cut the front end of my pumpkin off. It would have been so much easier. But hey, that's in the past and we're moving on. And so I just cut all the tops off my skeletons. I had a pack of those little wood pumpkins that come from the Dollar Tree, the little bitty tiny ones. And I took 3 of them and I painted them orange with that DIY Summer Crush. And I had some glitter from the Dollar Tree, and it has different fall colors. I opened up the orange, sprayed a little bit of that spray adhesive, and I put just a little bit of glitter all over the pumpkins. Not too crazy. Now it's time to put this mamma jamma together. I took a very small Sharpie-like pen, and I colored his eyes in black. And what I plan to do is use this little coffin. My daughter's vampire teeth came in it. It's just a little coffin toy. And my plan is to lay him inside there and like he's popping out of it. That's the scene. And then once I get everything in place the way I want to do it, I just had to use a little bit of glue here and there. And of course my big head has to jump right up in the way. Thank you, Lord, it finally moved. And I've got him just kind of like he's trying to pop up out of that coffin, like, let me out of this thing, you know, like he's just trying his best to just escape this thing. I tried to just be really careful with the glue and only use it where I needed. Now you can use any kind of little box to put him in. I was going to use a little jewelry box before I found this little coffin toy box, but I found it and then I just glued it in sideways. Then I added a couple of those little pumpkins, and really I usually put things in 3s, but for some reason 2 looked better, so I used 2, but I have an idea for what I'm going to do for the 3rd one. Then I took my hot knife and I spun this pumpkin around and I cut a small hole because we're going to put some lights in it. And I want the lights to be able to go through the back where I can put the little remote back here and it's not in the way. And that hot knife went right through this pumpkin so easy, y'all. It was just crazy easy. And I threaded those lights through there because they are so small that it didn't take much to get them through. I just kind of wound those lights around the back of the coffin and kind of around it. And I glued it on the sides. That's the one thing I like about these small string lights. They're in my Amazon store, by the way. They're little bitty string lights. They're called fairy lights, and you can actually glue them. I took a couple of these black foam flowers that come from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to put 2 of them down in front of the skeleton that's down there in the coffin, and then a couple up on the top. I really thought that these kind of just gave it a little extra touch. Now we're going to set the second skeleton up on the top. I just put some glue and place him up there, and he's waving, and he's sitting back on the stem of the pumpkin, and I'm going to stick his leg up like, hey, dude, like he's just kind of chilling, like, he just hanging. But anyways, I glued it. That's the vision that was in my head anyways. And so I glued it to where he's up there just kind of chilling and waving at you like, hey, what's going on? And then I found some bats, y'all. I didn't know I had these. They're little rings that came in the Dollar Tree pack, and they were bats. So all I had to do was use my hot knife and cut the little ring part off. And so now I have perfect little bats to use. And so I took them, and I'm going to place this one upside down because that's how bats hang anyways. And I'm going to place him at the very front of this pumpkin like it's a little cave. And then I'm just going to place a couple of bats in different locations. I want to put one on that red coffin because I knew that it would stand out. And then I wanted to actually put one on this guy's knee, like it's his little pet. Like, how a kitty cat's always at your feet? Well, he's got a little bat at his feet. That was kind of my vision. Don't laugh. It's just, it's how I think. I don't know.
Then I take a bat and put it in front of those two pumpkins at the bottom.
I kind of straightened everything up and made sure I had everything the way that I wanted it. And I took that third pumpkin and I'm going to stick it up there by those two black foam flowers on the top. And I wanted to finish it off with some of that spray adhesive on the black flowers and some of that black chunky glitter so that they would shine. And I love this one, y'all.
I glued it to a candlestick just to give it a little extra va-va-voom. Even if I paid $6.44 for this pumpkin, I still have $8 or $9 at most in this DIY.
Now this last one is so fast and easy, it's not even really a DIY. It's more of a hack, I guess you could say. I got this cute little owl at the thrift store for $1 or $2. I cleaned him off real good, but owls are usually dark, and I had some of that Java colored paint still left on my paintbrush. And I just wanted to go over him in like a distressing motion and color him in and see what he would look like if we did this to him. And I was absolutely loving the way that it went over his feathers and how pretty it was.
Owls give me a vintage vibe, but I think it's because my mom had a lot of home interior owl stuff in the 80s.
Now he had some black spots that was all in his eyes, and what I like to do with stuff like that is just take a Sharpie and color it in. I mean, you really never notice the difference. In some cases, it actually looks better. So I just colored that in real pretty. And that was pretty much all I did to this guy, and he's done. And that's all I did to this guy, and spray some enamel on him, and he is done. All right, if you guys stayed with me through this whole video, I just want to say thank you so much. I appreciate each and every one of y'all. I love y'all so much, and I hope that you guys like these. They're a little eerie and a little different than what you're used to from me. But I don't know, I just got a wild hair to do these, and I just got these ideas in my mind, so I put them in motion. And I love you guys, and I will be seeing you very soon. Don't forget, I have 2 videos out a week right now, every Tuesday and Friday at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. I hope to see you guys there, and I hope that on the next video, my cousin Bobby Joe's going to make her appearance. And Sabby's going to be there in his costume too. God bless you and your family. I love you all.